Hello there, and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast, where principles are aligned with all the things of leadership in our lives. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host, and I'm delighted to have Kevin Westcott from Deloitte Consulting as one of our guests today. In full disclosure, Kevin actually is a client of Integrity Wealth Management and a longtime friend as well. I'm delighted to have you on, and welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Ralph. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Kevin, would you tell our audience a little bit about your professional and personal kind of trajectory and path to where you are today, kind of starting wherever you want and bringing us forward?
Sure, Ralph. So I started my career in the mid 80s with another firm. I actually grew up in that firm, so to speak, came out of undergrad and spent 19 years there, making partner in the late 90s. I made the decision to switch out of that firm and take a couple year hiatus. After spending that many years in the professional consulting world, I thought it might be time to look at other things. What I realized during that time frame is I really loved consulting and I loved that type of business. So it wasn't necessarily I didn't like the business. I just had maybe moved beyond that particular firm. So I joined Deloitte a little over 16 years ago. Went into the business to just be a client leader, serve clients and enjoy that type of business. What happened quite quickly though is I was asked to take on some leadership roles. So through a series of different roles, I was a practice leader in consulting. I was a lead client service partner for a large account. And then I moved into management across all four of the businesses. Deloitte has four major businesses: consulting, advisory, audit, and tax. And I moved into businesses, running those businesses, which is what I've been doing for the last 8 to 10 years. So my early years were very, I'd say, somewhat generic, working across multiple industries, but in the mid 90s, I kind of centered myself around the media and entertainment industry and spent the vast majority of my career serving major studios, broadcasters, production organizations, now streamers, and the big social media players. So anything in the media business. And then over a few years, I then took on also the telco and the high tech practices. So that's where I end up today. Just wrapped an assignment that I did for the last 4 years, which is running the tech, media, and telco and sports business for the U.S. firm of Deloitte.
Interesting. Now, Kevin, media and has gotten a bad rap, maybe earned some of that bad rap around a lack of integrity or transparency. What do you find in that world, and how do you stay centered with your level of integrity that I know that you bring every day?
Well, Ralph, maybe I'll give you just a tiny history lesson. So Deloitte was actually founded in 1845. So you think about that; it's been around for a very long time. And William Welch Deloitte was the very first person ever appointed as a auditor of a public company. So basically, he and the folks in his generation started the business of public auditing. And you can imagine, that everything in that space is based on trust and transparency. And that's really been, one of the core principles of Deloitte ever since I've joined here is we're about transparency and trust. And that's the way I always operated myself. What I find is, in a variety of clients, I'll run into people who have different agendas. And I've always been of belief that if you are transparent and honest, it's the best way to do business, and it does not come back to bite you. And that's what you always try to avoid, is having a problem down the road because you did something that wasn't aligned with your principles. So I've always kept that to the core of the way I've done things. And, I tell this to a lot of the practitioners in my practice, which is it's not the error that you make that gets you in trouble. It's the cover up. So if you make a mistake, own up to it, ask for help, and you'll always get help. The leadership is here to help you. But if you make a mistake and try to hide it or cover it up, and it comes out in 6 hours, 6 months, or 6 years, that's where the problem happens. So, everybody makes mistakes. We all make errors in our decision making, but just owning it as early as you know you made a mistake is the best way to avoid a problem.
Yes, owning things, right or wrong, is an integral part of integrity, and that's almost redundant and integral in integrity because they go together, very
Mm-hmm.
much integrated in their root. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
something. Is there an example you can give our audience about how prioritizing integrity has benefited your practice, your person?
Yeah. So, Ralph, I'll give you an example. It's surprising to me. It's over 20 years old, but it's something that actually I would say helped shape the way I approach client service. So in my previous firm, I was in a leadership position at a client, and we had a project in London for that client that was sold and being executed by our team over there. I was called in because there were a number of problems. The project wasn't going well. It was over budget. The client wasn't happy. So I was asked to get involved. And what I found when I went over to London, and I met with the client, I met with the team, is that there was not only a lack of communication, there was a lack of trust, and there was definitely a lack of transparency. So over about 2 months, I dug into that project and got all the details so I could really understand what was going on. And what became very clear to me is some of the team members from from my firm's team were not being transparent and were not being upfront with what the issues were. And the client wasn't necessarily was not aware of all the challenges. So I took it upon myself, and I went and spoke with the most senior executive in London about this, and I laid it on the table with them. And quite honestly, the level of issues were so significant that it could end up in litigation. But he and I sat down and said, "Okay, it's a mess. Let's work on this together." And we, set a path forward. And over the next 18 months, we completed what we were supposed to get done, at significant cost to both the client and my old firm, but we got it done. And to this day, that gentleman who's moved on from that client is still a close friend. I stay in contact with he and his wife because it's one of those situations where, I think he appreciated the fact that I was transparent. I brought forth the facts, the issues, and in a way, I fell on my sword and said, there's blame to go all around. We're trying to blame the other party in a situation like that just makes it worse. So again, as I said earlier, own up to the problems that are your own, and then find a path forward. And as I said, well over 20 years now, I'm still in contact with them, still friends with them, and we've done business a couple times since then.
It's a fantastic story and a wonderful path back to prosperity for both, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
not only did your firm get this behind them, you satisfied a client, and I imagine that work was accretive to their bottom line at the end of the day. You're not doing this
Yes.
just for the exercise of expense. It's for the ultimate profitability, I'm suspecting.
Absolutely. No, it definitely it was a successful project at the end, and the business that it supported was thriving for many, many years until the world of streaming came up, which changed the business of video consumption. I'm sure it has in your household. I know it has in mine.
Yes. What do you mean I can't go down to West Coast Video and get myself a VHS?
Exactly. Exactly.
So Kevin, tell me something. When you're in your leadership style, how do you apply integrity, and what do you see as the benefits when you're applying your principle of integrity in your leadership?
Well, so Ralph, as I mentioned, I've been in these leadership roles within Deloitte for many years now, and the way I approach this, we are a partnership, and that gives you a slightly unique culture. But there still are people who believe that there's a hierarchical approach to how things are. So if you looked at an org chart, I may be pretty high up on that org chart, but the people that would quote report to me, my approach with them is I'm a servant leader. My job is here to support you and make their job as easy as possible. So and the way I've always measured my success is how often do the people that quote report to me are calling me, asking me to help them. Because if I can help them, that means that, and these are the folks that run our accounts. They're the, in my view, they're the most important people in the firm. They're the ones that sit on top of our clients and are the, quote, one throat to choke at a client site. They're responsible for all the services we deliver. And if they're calling me and asking me for help to either come meet with their client, help them through a situation, get something done within the firm, and sometimes that's as hard as getting something done within the client. But if they're calling me, that means I'm doing my job well. And I do not believe in a top-down approach for things like the roles I sit in. I believe that I'm there to support them. And I tell that to all the partners on my team at all different positions, which is my job is to make sure that they are the most effective because they're the ones serving clients today. And that's, the bottom line, that's where we make our revenue, is serving our clients and doing high quality work and having happy clients that come back regularly who want us to do more services for them. So, and I keep using the word transparency because that's the way, when I think about integrity, it's being transparent, being honest, and owning your own issues. And the more I can do to support our teams, the better the firm does. And I also believe that the people who, quote, report to me also know that I'm here to help. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to help them through their most difficult situations. So that's kind of how I look at it. And, if I can't be completely honest and upfront with the people that work with me, then I should not be in this role.
No, that's perfect. I have asked that question in one form or the other about leadership and integrity and how it plays a role of our previous guests. And I will tell you that is a common thread. You saying servant leadership, leadership servitude, those words have come in combination very often. And so I think the most enlightened leaders are, in fact, understanding that they have to be servants to those that are below them, even in that hierarchy of a corporate chart, because that's at the end of the day. There was a wonderful book called Employees First, and the postulation that the author, who was a CEO of a company, he insisted that if you put your employees first, they will take care of the issues for your clients and customers, and they will take care of the profitability of the company. Really an interesting way and perspective to look at things.
Absolutely agree with that perspective, Ralph. And I would add something which, we've all heard of the Peter Principle. I believe in the opposite of that. People have asked me many times, how did I succeed here at this firm when I came in? Because the practice I joined was quite small. It's now very large and has been one of the fastest growing practices in the firm for many years. And I tell them, I just hired people that I knew who were smarter than me at something. So I have a very broad set of skills, but I would go into the marketplace and find people that I believe are much better than I ever would be in a specific area. And I hire them. And I give them enough rope to go build their businesses. And what that has turned into is we have built over the last 17 years, 16, 17 years I've been here, 15 of those I've been in leadership roles. We've built by far the largest and most successful practice area in the area that I operate against our competitors. And I would tell you, we were probably third or fourth when I joined the firm.
Wow.
But it was about bringing in talent and giving them the opportunity to thrive. And I'm very proud of that. I have a long list of people that I feel very good about that I brought into the firm. They've now achieved their career aspirations of making partner or managing director or wherever they wanted to end up in the firm, and that they're running businesses for us. And I'll give you just a quick example of this. We had a nascent sports practice a few years ago, and I was asked to take over the sports practice. And this is serving teams, leagues, associations, those types of things. It was a very small practice, and I had a partner that came with that, and we sat down and I said, "What's your plan? Let's talk about how you build this." He goes, "I need to hire some people." I said, "Let's go into the marketplace and hire people, and let's build something from the ground up." Well, I would tell you now we are by far the largest professional services firm in the sports industry around the world.
Wow.
And we've built it in multiple countries. And again, to me, it's about giving the opportunity to those people that have a passion about something and who are better than I am at that. And I got to tell you, my sports team is absolutely amazing because they are all deeply passionate, and probably 2/3 of them are former athletes who played, maybe at, D1 level or others, but they wanted to work in sports. So that's kind of been my philosophy. And, I may have strayed a bit away from the integrity piece, but it's kind of my philosophy about how to be a leader is also giving people those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, you refer to your team as a sports team, and it's filled with athletes. So perfect. Serving sports teams.
Yes.
So question when, and this is kind of obvious, but I like to hear you articulate it for our audience. How do you think integrity plays with developing client loyalty?
Oh, I think I used that example earlier. Clients that I've had relationships with 20, 25 years are people that, they're professionals who they just don't want service from a professional services firm. They want advice that they can trust. Some of these people are in positions that they are not in a position to hire us anymore, but I still talk to them frequently. And we use each other to bounce ideas off, or to understand what we see happening in the marketplace, or understand what competitors are doing. So, and I've always given, my clients my most straightforward, views. Probably the number one question I get when I meet with a client executive is, how are we doing in the marketplace versus our competitors? They don't really want Deloitte's point of view on, what's happening with Gen AI or you name it. They want to know, how are we doing? How could we do better? And I could sugarcoat it and tell them how great they are, or I can give it to them straight where I think they're struggling. And I'll tell you, they really appreciate that straight talk. And we do this, behind closed doors, as it should be, no attribution to any comments, but they want my opinion of what is happening in the marketplace or what they should be doing differently. And that's how I build these relationships. And I said, I've had some of these relationships for 25 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been with two firms. A lot of my clients have been with 6 different corporations during that time, and they still call me because they know that they'll get a straight answer from me.
Yeah, yeah, it's important to be a straight shooter, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, Ralph, in the people that I do business with, whether it's inside my professional career or outside, I look for the exact same thing. If I ever feel that I'm being deceived, lied to, that's typically the end of a relationship. That's, to me, if you break my trust, I'm out. And that's the way that I treat the people that I interact with as well.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect standard. So tell me something. You must have, along your path, whether professionally or personally, encountered an instance where the opposite side was lacking integrity in the counterparty. Can you share an example of when that happened? It may not happen frequently, but when it happened, what transpired and your reaction to it, so that our audience can understand how they might deal with it if they encounter something that lacks integrity.
Yeah, there was an example, and when I kind of went through some of the questions you wanted to ask, I thought about this one example, which was very, very challenging for me. It was at a client that I'd served for many years, and it was I would say an upper middle level, management position, that I was interacting with, who, from the day I met him, I did not necessarily have a feeling of, trust with him. We did some work with him, and when something didn't go right, and I had a very good relationship with his boss, and he asked me straight up to lie to his boss about how something went. And I told him I can't do that. And, he said, well, that will be the last time you ever do any work for me. And I said, that's fine. Because if you're willing to ask me to lie to your boss about a situation that he caused, it was 100% on him. Not only was he not willing to own up to his error, but I actually felt it was incumbent on me to make sure that his boss understood the situation and understood that one of his subordinates was asking me as a third party to lie to him. let it be said that that was probably one of the straws, but that gentleman was no longer with that company about 6 months later. Now, I wouldn't say it was the only one, but I think it was probably one of many that that the leadership of that firm, that company understood that this person was not necessarily ethical or straightforward.
Gosh, it's so much easier in the long run, isn't it, to hold to integrity and doing the right things even when people aren't looking?
Absolutely. Well, I think I don't know who said that quote, but they always said, leadership or integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's watching. And I always believe that to be true as well. You can't fake it. It is either part of who you are and how you operate. And those who fake it typically will see through that.
Yeah. Now, using the wisdom that you've gained over the years, thinking about the audience, the younger folks in our audience, maybe starting out in their careers and their personal path and journey, what thoughts and tips and advice would you have for them?
Well, beyond keeping your ethical and moral and your ballast of how you want to operate, the advice I give everybody at every level within my firm, and I don't care if this is a first year just out of their MBA or somebody who's been a partner for 5 years, is that I tell people, master what you do, then look at the person that supervises you and start taking over their job. If you can take 10% of your supervisor's or boss's role away from them, that frees up their time to do more strategic things, and you're already proving you can do that job. So when it comes around to doing promotions, you can easily say, I've already been doing it for 2 years or a year or 6 months. And that works at every level. So if I have somebody on my team who takes away some of my day-to-day work, that means I have more time to do more strategic things. It's the same for the first year, staff person. You take away a little bit of the work from the person above you, they have time to do the exact same thing. So it's kind of it's an upward, it's an upward mobile mindset, which says that everybody should be figuring out how to do the next job. And that to me has always worked. And I was given that advice when I was probably in my second or third year, doing this back in the 80s. And I've kind of held by that the whole time. And again, same advice I give everybody that I interact with.
What forward-thinking advice and insight that is, Kevin, for sure. So we've been talking with Kevin Westcott of Deloitte Consulting. Kevin, as we're rounding the corner here, coming to the close of our show, people might want to reach out to you. Some of our audience might want to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I've been a member of LinkedIn since the very, very early days. So please hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. I have quite a following. And if you're at all interested in what some of the stuff that I also publish for the firm, it's all out there as well. So the articles that I write and the talks I give. So it's probably the best way to get an idea of what's going on in my world. But also, if you hit me on LinkedIn, I'll get back to you.
I know that because, Kevin, if you recall, I think it was LinkedIn in those early days that connected us.
It was through a common friend who's an attorney who said, "Hey, you should meet Ralph." And that was, I don't know how long ago, Ralph, but it's been a very long and very valuable relationship for me.
Yes, likewise, Kevin. It has. And so the Power of Integrity podcast, where principles align with leadership and integrity and all the things that we know to be good for business and personal. This is your host, Ralph Adamo, signing off with Kevin Westcott from Deloitte Consulting. Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Ralph.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.